At $200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES.
Only on Super NES.
You're listening to the SNES Podcast with your host, Soul Blazer.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Super NES Podcast. This is episode number 175 this time. I'm starting to get up there. As always, this is your two co-hosts. I'm Greg, he's Joe. And we are coming at you today with one of two Halloween-themed episodes. If we had planned this better, we would have done both episodes before Halloween, and actually, as it is, we're recording this on Halloween, but you guys are not going to hear this until after Halloween, so... But in any event, we do have, like, two Halloween-themed games we wanted to cover, like, for you guys, so... sorry about the timing being a bit wonky, like, it is what it is, but... nobody ever accused me of being, like, a master strategist when it came to planning these things out.
I don't think anybody's going to
complain. We are looking at a game here, this time for our first Halloween-themed episode, which has been requested in the past, but we've never actually gotten around to talking about yet. I actually have not played this game very much before in the past until for this episode. So, and I don't think Joe had ever played it at all, right?
Yeah, I had never played this before.
Right, so we're covering Zombies Ate My Neighbors, which is a run-and-gun / platforming game for the Super NES and Genesis that came out in 1993. So, this is a very well-remembered game these days. Zombies Ate My Neighbors definitely falls into that cult classic category because just like another like cult favorite we covered early in the podcast or the podcast history, Earthbound. The game didn't sell particularly well when it first came out, but in the years since then, it's gotten like more and more recognition, more and more praise, more and more heaps, which has led to some unofficial and official sequels, and sequels and more re-releases and all kinds of good stuff that we're going to cover here later on in the podcast. But another one of those games that kind of didn't do very much at its release, and then it has become very popular after that fact. So. But anyway, I played this game a little bit back when it first came out and liked it. I just never really spent much time with it because it really is not my... At the time, the gameplay style really wasn't my cup of tea. But, since then, though, I do know the recognition this game has gotten, over the years. So, and like Joe said, this is actually his first time playing the game. Obviously, Joe's known about the game.
Yeah, I've seen it mentioned numerous times. I've seen screenshots. It's just one of those... there's so many other games for both platforms, Sega and Super Nintendo, that I haven't touched, that, this has always been, it's on the list, but it's, at the very bottom of the list.
Yeah, the game actually sold a little bit better than Genesis, apparently, than the Super NES, which, considering there are some slight differences between the versions, we'll talk about, I'm a little surprised by that. Maybe people on Genesis just wanted, a better game of this type that one of the Super NES folks did. I'm not sure, but so this game was developed by a very famous company you've probably heard of, called Lucasarts, which we actually have not covered Lucasarts yet on this podcast because Lucasarts was mostly known for their computer games and not for their console stuff. But like Interplay, another company that was well known for its computer stuff, they did branch out into consoles a little bit during the history. So we could spend a whole podcast just talking about LucasArts themselves as a history. So I'm going to give you guys a very quick Cliff Notes version of the company's history. Lucas Games was so LucasArts, also known as Lucasfilms Games, was obviously one of several companies that George Lucas created. LucasArts dates back to 1979, when both the computer division and a computer division and a graphic division were created. Lucas Games did not release the first game, however, until 1982. 1982 was also the year that the computer division was spun off like its own company. They eventually became Pixar. So both those companies have like pretty long histories, and so Lucas Games originally focused upon computer. Lucas Games did originally make 2 games for Atari with their consoles, Ball Blazer and Risco and Fractus, which are both seen as very, very good games. But they did also make those games for the computers at the time period. And after that point, they pretty much focused over computers only, like all through the 80s. All through the 80s, like the 80s, like early 90s. Ironically enough, and this is something I don't think a lot of folks know about, and a lot of programs who work with LucasArts have talked about, ironically, in the past. For most of the first 10 years or so of their history, LucasArts was making other games. You would think they want to, think that them being part of, being part of a Lucasfilm, that they'd make Star Wars games. However, they already sold off licenses to make those games to other companies. So a lot of programmers, if you listen to interviews by them, were like, when I was hired by Lucasfilms, I was excited to be making Star Wars games, and then we get there and find out, well, we don't have the license to make Star Wars games, so we can't. So they actually started making a bunch of adventure games, and they've made numerous great adventure games over the years. It's like you feel a book of like all the games they've made over the history. There's Maniac Mansion and Day of the Tentacle. There's a Full Throttle and the Dig. There's the Monkey Island games. There's the Indiana Jones games, and on and on. It's like really some the LucasArts, and along with Sierra, was known as being the adventure game company at the time period. So eventually, in their 90s, once the Star Wars licenses lapsed and LucasArts could start making Star Wars games again, they started making Star Wars games such as like X-Wing, TIE Fighter, so on and so on. So, so the company continued going strong until LucasArts was and actually how Lucas Empire was bought by Disney in 2013. At the time, Disney had its own company in-house to make games. So they didn't see a need for duplication. So Lucasfilm was shut down. Lucasfilm's games were shut down later on that year. However, recently, as of several months ago, due to the fact Disney once again has stopped doing in-house development of games, they've quietly brought back the Lucasfilm game logo, as a brand name. Not an independent company anymore, but they are still using but they are once again using Lucasfilm names, slapping them onto games, games and whatnot. So who knows what might happen in the future, like this company at this point. So. Anyway, I said before, they were mostly known for their computer games. So, the few console games that they made, they never released themselves. They always partnered up with with other companies. So, and actually, this is actually testimony to how well regarded the company, both the company and the game was. Konami ended up taking up the rights to publish this game, for both consoles, which Konami was mostly known as being developed themselves, but they did publish some games, and even the games that Konami published, they were very, very good. So, which is testament to how powerful Konami was at the time period, and also how high Konami set the bar for the games that they released on the Konami label. So, so 2 great companies handled this game. Definitely shows. So, The Super NES version of the game came out first, September 1993, with the European release later on that year. The Genesis version followed 2 months later. The Super NES version was worked on first. It was about halfway through development of the Super NES version of the game. They decided, hey, we probably should make this for Genesis too. So they started porting the game over to Genesis. Besides the typical differences you see in a cross console game, controls, graphics, music, that kind of stuff, there is one version of the game. I'm sorry, there is one thing in the game that's different. That's different between the platformers. For some reason, the Genesis version of the game does not include the flamethrower. So. Why, I don't know. I couldn't find anything online that explained why it was left out. But so there's there's that difference between it. Inspiration for the game obviously came from a bunch of sources. You have the classic campy horror movies of the 50s. They also the developers also said they took inspiration from more modern films like Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Weapon effectiveness is actually based upon how those weapons are shown in those movies, for example. So, for example, werewolves that attack a silver weapon would die in one hit. So, the game is basically a massive, like I said before, run and gun / platforming game where you have 55 stages, and you're trying to rescue as many people as you can, your neighbors, in that stage before they all get killed by the monsters, aka the zombies. So there is a plot, your typical silly, stupid 50ish zombies style plot. Dr. Tongue has gone up the deep end and has created a wide variety of monsters like in his castle and unleashed them live on the countryside. So 2 teenage friends, Zeke and Julie, having witnessed this firsthand, arm themselves with a bunch of weapons and decide to go defeat all of them Buffy style. So ultimately the game ends with a final showdown. The final showdown fight against Dr. Tongue. You beat him, you win the game. So now I talked about the actual setup of the game, for the premises. Joe, do you want to take a stab at trying to describe how the gameplay actually works?
I would. So it's basically run and gun, but I would akin this gameplay style to almost like Smash TV. That's what this felt like. Obviously, you don't get the twin stick shooter aspect of it, but you can shoot in all 8 directions. There's enemies that constantly respawn. I found that out the hard way. I thought I killed all the enemies on screen, quote unquote screen, and was sitting there cycling through my weapons and ended up getting attacked by zombies that I didn't realize were gonna pop up right from underneath me. But yeah, as far as games that we've covered, this is a unique game. We haven't had something like this yet, and I really like the easy, not easy is the wrong word. Simple gameplay that is on offer here. You can, obviously you have to rescue your neighbors. That's the object of each level. But in essence, you can rescue one neighbor, and the exit could appear, because if you take your time, eventually the zombies are going to eat your neighbors, and there's going to be less and less of them to pick up.
Right.
So if you really just want to do, you could literally just run through the level and shoot endless waves of zombies. At least in the first couple of levels. After, I think, level 5, they start switching it up and introducing some new enemy variants. But yeah, I mean, this Smash TV, if you like arcade shooters, this is very much akin to that. The difficulty is up there too. This could have been totally an arcade cabinet.
Yeah, I was thinking Yeah. I was thinking this game reminded me more about like Gauntlet style gameplay, but I definitely can see like Smash TV as well too.
Gauntlet's the other one that I was thinking of, but I was thinking like as far as
Yeah.
like Super Nintendo like comparison, technically Gauntlet never showed up on the Super Nintendo, so that's why I was like Smash
True.
TV
Yeah.
would be,
yeah.
and that's the only other one I could think of that's like this.
Yeah.
But same thing,
Yeah.
waves and waves of
Yeah.
enemies. You shoot them down. You have your objective. I like the idea that there are some places that are locked behind keys. Yeah, so you have to get keys, and there's inventive ways to get the keys. At first, when I was playing, I saw a guy in a pool, and my instinct is, oh well, I can't go in water because I'd die. So like he was like the last one I went after because it was like, well, I said if I'm gonna die, at least I know he's the only one I have left to rescue. And then of course my guy was able to go in the water and rescue him, no problem. And using the trampolines was fun. And then the fact that you can use multiple trampolines, they can be connected and get to other places and stuff like that. It's really unique the way that they put some, they definitely put thought into this. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, you can tell this game was developed by the. Like I said before, you definitely can tell this game was developed by a very experienced company because even though this may be Lucasfilm's first Super NES game, the programs who worked on this were all very talented computer programmers, like their staff who knew what they were doing. So yes, the experience shows, and this is very much a very definition of the simple to play, hard to master genre of gameplay, because it's like, as Joe was saying, your objective on each stage is very simple. There's 10 victims, and you're trying to save as many of the victims as you can before they all get eaten. So once you've either rescued or killed, well, let me rephrase that. Once all the victims are gone, because you've rescued them all, or they've all been killed, the exit door opens up somewhere on level, and then you can find it, move on, and go on the next stage. So you are constantly under attack. So by the same time that you're exploring, you also want to make sure that you're keeping that fire trigger button happy. So victims are worth different points depending upon who they are. Like some people are not worth very much at all. The barbecue guy, for example, is like the barbecue guy. I'm only worth like 5 points. Other people like worth a lot more points. Cheerleaders, babies, dogs, explorers, etc. So, especially later on in the game, you'll prioritize. If you care about points, you'll prioritize which ones are more worth your while to go after, because points do control you getting extra lives. So there is some incentive to there's some incentive to try to get points. So there is a radar screen you also can turn on or off to help you out, which is very cool
and very helpful.
Yes. The game would have been helpful with a battery to save progress. I don't know why it wasn't included, probably because of expense.
I was going to say, that was one of the notes I have here, is that, like, password system with a question mark. Like, why would you have a password system when battery backups have been the norm for quite a while? But,
Yeah, I'm just thinking cost, probably, but because the password system works fine. You get a password every 4 levels. So, which is fair, because, like, if you know what you're doing, we'll talk about this later on, but if you know what you're doing, this game's actually not that very long to beat. Right. So, password every 4 levels is fine. It's a very simple password too. It's like 4 letters. So, not a very complicated password.
It's not a Metroid password.
Right. So, weapons available to you. A lot of variety, creativity in some of these weapons. You have the usual weapons you expect to find in a game like this. Bazookas, squirt guns, that kind of stuff. But you also find things like soda pop cans that can explode on contact, extinguishers, weed eaters, an ancient artifact, which is really a cross. They just called it that to get around Nintendo censoring. Plates, bubble gum, tomatoes, and then ice pops. So, some really fun weapons. Items also are available in the game to help you out. Keys open up doors, as Joey mentioned before. Scouting keys open up scouting doors. Red bottles that make you invincible for a short period of time. Weak bottles make you a ghost. Question mark bottles could be good or bad. Or random speed shoes speed you up. Decoys are inflatable clowns who look hilarious, by the way. Who attract monsters away from you like for a short period of time. Golden chests release energy blasts and destroy monsters, and first aid kits give your life bar back to full force. Because you do have a life bar in this game also. So, and of course the flamethrower, which is the weapon I mentioned that's Super NES only. So, which too bad is the flamethrowers definitely like one of my favorite games of this game. Favorite weapons like this game. So, what was your favorite?
I used the Uzi a lot, but
The Uzi's good. Yep.
I'm a little inside baseball here. I cheated my butt off in this game when I played it. So I had all the weapons and unlimited ammo. So I got to play with all of them. And I also absolutely love the flamethrower, and also having, infinite ammo for it just made it that much more fun. But also I love the fact that, you can pick up just dishes and throw them. And then back to what you were talking about, movie tropes and stuff. Like, to kill the werewolves, you can use silverware. So you're throwing forks and knives at werewolves and stuff. It's hilarious. This game's got so much charm that I find it very hard to hate this game. That's for sure.
This game does ooze charm, definitely, as far as all the presentation, the programming done, the graphics, too, encourage that also. The graphics are very, the graphics of the game are very good. They're not amazing graphics, but they are, very detailed, bright, colorful, very, cartoony-like graphics. So, they definitely added the whole flair of the game. Zeke looks hilarious, by the way, with his, his glasses and punk style outfit and punk hair.
He couldn't be more 90s.
But definitely. The graphics of the game are very pleasing.
Yeah, I also I know we usually kind of go in order the way we talk about this stuff, but I have to jump in real quick. The music in this is not oh my god, crazy Super Nintendo. There's other good Super Nintendo soundtracks out there, but the music for this game is absolutely perfect for the atmosphere and gameplay of this game.
Yep. Definitely agree. Joe McDermott, who's well known in LucasArts, for scoring their games, did the music for this game. So, it's a very good soundtrack. Very fitting for the game.
I was pleasantly surprised. It's, like I said, nothing to write home about, but at the same time, in the context of the game itself, I really enjoyed it.
Right. So, what else in this game is very pleasing? Oh, on some levels, days turn to night, which adds which adds extra complexity, and difficulty. So because there are some neighbors who can't be rescued anymore if it turns to be night. So I gotta be careful about that. So there is a 2-player mode in this game. Joe and I did not get to partake in that because of how busy we are right now. But yeah, I have seen video of this game playing 2-player mode, and it looks like a blast because you definitely can have one person covering one side, the other person covering the other person covering the other. You basically watch over each other's back, so it's a very good team play style game.
Being able to emulate, I was able to map the controllers for player 1 and player 2 to be the very same controls. So I was...
I didn't think about that. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Because I wanted to see how this ran in multiplayer. Because I'm thinking Super Nintendo, you got 2 characters on. Depending on how many zombies are on screen, I figured some slowdown, maybe a little flicker, but nothing. This game plays it and processes it all like a champ. Not one bit of slowdown, nothing. I was thoroughly pleased, and I think this would be fantastic multiplayer. also playing multiplayer slightly amps up the difficulty, but that's about it as far as being able to quote unquote change the difficulty in this game. And by default, this game is as you progress further and further, it gets harder and harder, and you start to feel that really. I think it was like the 5th or 6th stage where I started to actually lose neighbors. Before that, I had no problem, but it was like right around there is where the difficulty started to ramp up, and it gets more mazy, so to say, literally, because it's a hedge maze with the occasional Jason / Leatherface antagonist that shows up with the giant chainsaw, which is another aspect of the game that I got to enjoy but didn't fully embrace. So there are different parts in that level where you have to lead the chainsaw guy to certain parts of the hedge maze, and he'll cut through it and he'll create a path. I found a loophole to that, since I had infinite ammo and all the weapons. I could use my bazooka to blow open holes in the hedgeway. So I didn't need him as much as I should have. But I just got to see the beginning of that idea, which was pretty cool, and I did play with it a little bit, in the beginning. But once I realized, like, oh well, I have the bazooka and I can just make my own path. Why do I have to wait for him? that changed everything. I kind of broke the game.
Yeah, there are numerous strategies you can use, like for each stage, which one of the cool things about this game, because it's like, if you care about, like Joe said before, like, don't care about, like, advancing, you don't have to save like one neighbor, and then just like let the rest of them get killed for as far as you care. But on the other hand, if you want to be a hero and try to rescue as many of them as you can, there's definitely a strategy you have to use to think about doing it, which is pretty cool. So, as a quick side note here, LucasArts did develop 2 other games for the Super NES during the console's lifespan. One of the game, Meta Warriors, Konami also published. The last game they developed is coming. The last game LucasArts developed is a game called Big Sky Trooper, which was published by JVC. So, LucasArts was also involved indirectly with the Star Wars and Indiana Jones games, of course, but they didn't actually develop those because. But anyway, so the game handles very well too. The controls felt like very responsive. There wasn't really like any kind of problems as far as the actual gameplay itself. Like the weapons, with the weapons like and whatnot.
It took me a little getting used to, just because I'm used to like B and A being the buttons to do stuff, and this one swaps it to, I mean, it's really intuitive and it works. Like, once you figure it out, it works. But like, so X is your weapon to use your weapon, Y is to use your item, and then that's why it makes sense, because the B button will cycle through your weapons and the A button will cycle through your items. So if you think about it, if you're sitting there, using the X button to attack, you could simply just use the bottom of your thumb to hit that B button and cycle through your weapon, so it makes it a lot quicker to cycle. Like, I didn't even think about that until, like, I was like probably 3 or 4 levels in. Like, it was just like one of those, like, oh my god, I just kept hitting B to like attack, and I'm just like, what am I doing? And then like I thought about it, and I was like, oh, it's like, okay. I was like, yeah, this actually makes sense. And I really like the fact that you can toggle the map on and off, and the map is super helpful. I think if I didn't have the map, a lot more of my neighbors would have died, for sure. Especially in the in the later levels, it gets really hectic. But this is a really good control scheme. The game was really reactive to the there was no lag or anything like that. Like, it felt intuitive. Like I said, it felt like Smash TV, just without the the twin stick shooter aspect of it, which I think this would have been like, for modern consoles. I think if they would have done, because I know that they released a port recently on the Switch, at least,
which doesn't allow like a twin stick shooting.
Because I was going to say,
yeah,
like,
so,
I would hope that they would have gone through, and I would have preferred a remake of this game, to be honest, because I think this could do well with like a 2.5 aspect ratio or something like that. But
yeah,
this is like twin stick shooter would be perfect controls for this. So I'm might now have to pick up the ports. I was hesitant before, but maybe now I'll have to pick it up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you looked at the box cover, but even the box cover, like, this game screams 50 style,
yeah.
because it's a very like black and white, like, kind of 50s image on there. So, yeah, it's hard to find fault with this game. I think, I really like I really think my only nitpicks of this game was that it's a little short if you know what you're doing. For example, the YouTube playthroughs online of this game are play about 3 hours. So, the speedrun of this game is half that time, like an hour and a half. So, if you know what you're doing, this game's not that long, unfortunately. But then again, it's probably gonna take you a while to get that good to be able to go through the game that fast. So, I'm not, like I said, we're not gonna hold that too much against them. The hit detection seemed a little bit off of some enemies, I thought, occasionally. Maybe it was just me, but there were times where I thought a shot had connected, but it was just a glancing shot instead. So, but certain weapons are better. Certain weapons are better for that than others, obviously.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I definitely saw that occasionally, but it wasn't enough to hamper the gameplay for me.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess so. The radar, I wish was in the the radar. I wish you had the radar screen. I wish you had the ability to move it, because I don't like its default position, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a small nitpick.
Try playing multiplayer and then bringing up the map. You have 2 maps that pop up on screen at one time, and it'll obstruct your view even more so than what it does in one player. So, no nitpick on the position of the radar for me, because after playing it multiplayer, I was like, wow, it's like you can't see anything.
Yeah, but so the enemies of this game are pretty varied and well challenged. You never know what to expect. There's like Joe was saying before, there's numerous ways to go through the stage. I like how the barbecue guy himself is only worth 5 points, but the 5 points, but the meal he's cooking is like 100 points. So that's more like, well, man's got to eat doing this, right? So, but yeah, interesting for sure. But being able to swim in this game is great, like Joe said before, like, because we're so trained from most games to be like water means death, but. In this game, water is a critical aspect. Yep. So anyway, small nitpicks. I guess the reason the game didn't sell very well, even when it first came out, even though a big company like Konami published it, was the fact that the gameplay was so unique and different than what it was before. Plus also the gameplay style itself. Even though Nintendo required the game to be censored, there's no blood in this game. It's all like ooze, for example. Maybe parents were hesitant to buy this game, like to play their kids because of the content, the content matter. So I'm thinking I'm just guessing. So I'm just guessing a combination of those things. Despite that, however, the game reviewed very well when it came out, and the game continues to review like very well. You have 18s out of 20s, 8 out of 10s, 8 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s across the board like this game. So the game rankings aggregator score for this game is 84.5%. So definitely like a very well thought of game. So the humor of this game is also like very, very funny. So there's all the little details. This game really shows how well this game is programmed, because it really is like attention to detail was very much recommended. Oh, and I also forgot to add another cool feature about this game. If you have a bazooka but no key, but no key, no problem. Just blow the door open.
No, I never even tried that.
Yep. It's like, keys. Like, we don't need, taking keys. Just like, boom,
That
boom.
makes sense.
So, yeah.
It didn't even cross my mind to even think of trying that.
Because you don't think to try about it because most games don't do that. It's like, but in real life it makes total sense. So it's like, yeah, definitely. So, and as a matter of fact, I don't know if you played the game, Joe, but a lot of people, a lot of folks draw comparisons to between this game and Dead Rising, because Dead Rising definitely has some inspiration taken on this game.
I can see it.
So, all right. So cheat codes, there are a bunch of them. So, there's 48 regular levels in this game plus seven bonus levels. There's a way to be able to unlock three more bonus levels in this game that are included in the ROM, but not actually possible to see through normal gameplay unless you use a password for some reason. So, put this password into the menu screen, and you're able to access these three hidden bonus levels, which are very humorously titled "Curse of the Ferrets," "Mushroom Man," and "Cheerleaders versus the Monsters." So, there's also the typical passwords, which will give you the 10 victims to save and that kind of stuff. You also can do a password for secret level. You also have a password to view the ending credits. There's another password that there's another password there's a password that you can use to hear all the sound effects in this game. So typical stuff like that. As I mentioned before, this game has a very long legacy to it, because this game did kind of develop a kind of cult following like over the years. So, the game came out in Europe with some censorship involved, even more censorship than what the North American version had. The game name was something they called Zombies over there instead. For example, certain enemies were taken out and rechanged because they're seen to be as being too graphic. For example, the chainsaw wielding enemies were replaced with lumberjack wielding axes. Okay. So, you did and the box art also for the European power releases are much more comical in style compared to the North American version. They're much more like cartoonish, cartoonish looking. So. This game also came up with the ESB. This game also came up for the ESB. RB was a thing. So, obviously they probably would have released it as is with the ratings if that system had been in place, like that place, like the time, like the time period. So, the game did well enough that LucasArts ordered a sequel. So, Ghoul Patrol came out the following year in 1994. The game already had been in development. When Zombies Ate My Neighbors did reasonably well, LucasArts decided to go ahead and change it up to be a sequel. It shows in the fact the game wasn't originally intended to be a sequel. I played the game a little bit. It's fine. It's nowhere near as fun as this game is, though. And consensus across the board kind of agrees with me, on that. So. But you haven't played that game yet, Joe, right? Yeah, but
and I thought about playing it, since I played through this one, but I figured, at some point we would eventually talk about it, so I decided to hold on.
Right. So anyway, the game's gotten re-released numerous times over the years since it first came out. The game came out for the Wii Virtual Console in 2009. And so also this year, this year in particular, there's been a lot of activity activity in this game, because not only one, but two different versions of the game come out. So, first we had the Lucasfilm's classic games Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol for the Switch, Xbox One, and Windows. That was released in June of 2000. That was released in June of this year of 2021. So, they're basically there's basically like straight ports of the game with some minor modifications for like controls and graphic. Not graphics, like how you like start the game, a lot of that kind of stuff. Collection's done pretty well in sales, like when I see like online. But also on top of that, are you familiar with the company Limited Run Games, Joe?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They have announced, and they're announced that they're working on. They also obtained the rights from Lucasarts to be able to do a limited release of the game themselves in physical form, because obviously Lucasfilm's classic game their collection is digital only. So, but Limited Run is working on a limited physical release of this game, both for the modern systems, the Switch and Xbox One, but also Super NES. I've seen pictures of the carts. They're like. They're like one game uses a red shell, and the game uses like a green shell. It's pretty cool. So those are due to be released next month, November of 2021. So they're kind of expensive. I see pricing on eBay starting on $200. So I think that but the pre-orders are all sold out by this point. So
right.
There also was released like 10 years ago by another company, totally unauthorized, but of course like homebrew companies usually don't care about this kind of stuff. They developed and made their own. So they developed and released their own fan-made sequel to this game, which is called Oh No, More Zombies Ate My Neighbors, which is just basically more of the game is basically more of the same. It's just like here's 55 new levels. Have at it, go do the same thing. So so you're a fan of the game, this is worth checking out because that's kind of worth like more of the same gameplay style that you enjoy this kind of game. So because they have all these releases and whatnot, prices of this game are all across the board. So I'm going to try to do what I can here to try to summarize the price of this game to make it easy for somebody to understand. So the game's pretty common on eBay despite not selling like a huge amount. 106 copies of the game are currently listed on eBay. 185 copies that recently sold. Because it was a small release. And because the game is very popular, prices of this game have held up pretty well over the years. These prices include shipping, North America prices only. Carts only for this game sell anywhere from $22 to $69. So even in cart form, this game holds its value pretty well. CIV copies range wildly in price depending upon like how complete and how good in condition that it is. They run anywhere from $77 all the way up to $435, depending upon completion and condition. So yeah, this is kind of a pricey game. I'm kind of thinking that because the game was pricier, and because the game probably was more in demand before the releases of the game like recently came out, I was surprised to see there's actually there's actually repos available as a game out there too. So, because usually you only see repos for games that either didn't come out in North America officially or are very expensive. Right. So I'm thinking probably these are older repos that simply were made back when the game was more expensive than it was now. So but anyway, if I care about just playing the game in physical card, the repos are very cheap to have. You can pick one up for anywhere from $20. So I mentioned the fan-made sequel earlier. If you want that game in cart form, that's anywhere from $20 to $40. The game was also made with a box. Carton box that like anywhere from $70 to $80. So, finally, there's the holy grail for this game. I don't know the circumstances that so I don't know the reason why for this. I couldn't find anything online saying it. but there isn't. But this game, when it came out for the Super NES North America, also received a very limited edition alternate box cover, which was used for the game, which is a much more cartoony style graphic box cover. The picture used for the manual in the game's the same. Just only the box only that has a different cover on it. So I don't know why. Maybe Konami was going to do a different box cover originally, and it made a small batch, and then decided not to use it. So, or it might have been for a contest or promotion that I can't find any record of. So, but in any event, those are very expensive things to pick up these days. So, I saw Complete Games without a box cover running on eBay as high as $1,500 and $65. $1,565 sold. So this goes for a lot of money to have that limited edition box cover.
Yeah, I was just looking at the art for that box cover. I have never even seen that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very rare. Like I said, I don't know why that's a thing, basically. Yeah. So I couldn't find anything online saying talking about that. So, but anyway. So yeah, that's the game in a nutshell. If you're a big fan of this game, I highly recommend checking out their podcast. I've mentioned Watch Out for Fireballs here before in the past. They covered this game, about 10 years ago. This point, way back when, in the early library, they go into a much deeper dive of this game than we just did. So if you're a big fan of this game and want to hear more about it, check out that podcast. Otherwise, yeah, this is a very fun game. I'm not the biggest run and gun person, but this game is very fun to play. It's definitely one of those easy to pick up and play games. Hard to master. Like Joe said, it does get very difficult later on in the game, but the 40s, you're gonna be lucky to get out of there with one or two people still alive, probably. But yeah, it's a very fun game. It's difficult. It's difficult without being super difficult. I thought. So, I mean, I did beat this game without any cheat codes or whatnot. So, it is possible. It is possible you have some patience, and some limited game skill. And yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I very much, releases are fine. I definitely would be down for seeing a remake of this. So I mean, LucasArts these days, she's not actually developing games themselves anymore. But Disney or them could do something with the game if they wanted to. So, but yeah. Anyway, so that was Zombies Ate My Neighbors. You have any final thoughts about the game before we to close the episode out, Joe?
No, it's just if you've seen this game and you've thought, hey, that looks somewhat interesting, I should try it out. Try it out. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I don't think it'll become your favorite game on the Super Nintendo, but I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it, and it's well worth your time.
Did you check out? Did you play the Genesis version? At all to compare them?
I did. In my honest opinion, check out the Super Nintendo. I need the Genesis version because the Genesis version is basically the developers' actual vision for this game. It's uncensored. There's blood, and the music is not as good. The sound effects are kind of and the controller setup is horrendous for a 3-button controller. You have to hold. So A and B is your items and your attack, but you have to hold C and then hit A or B to cycle through those items. So it can be tedious, but it's really nice to actually see real blood and actually see what they were going for in this game. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth a look for sure.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because the game actually was started on the Super NES first. But that 3-button controller Genesis that does hold back. Yeah, that does hold back a lot of games. I think.
And I think that's what happened is they were developing it for the Super Nintendo, and then they found out through the censorship how much the game was going to be censored, and they just said, hey, maybe the Genesis will release it as is, and of course, Genesis has no problem with that. They wanted that leg up, so.
Oh yeah. So, well, yeah. I think either way, like whichever platform you play it on, the game still, the game still plays very well. So, the core gameplay is still intact for both of those. So, but anyway. So yeah, that's Zombies at My Neighbors. So that was game 1 of our Halloween Twin Fest. Next time on the podcast, we're going to be covering this part 2 of the Halloween coverage. We're going to be looking at Dracula X on the Super NES. So, Castlevania game. Always fun to talk about Castlevania game. So, you must have played that game in some version over the years, Joe, right? Either the original one or its original
only played the what is it, the Turbo CD version, which is
Rondo of Blood,
Rondo of
like
Blood.
the original game.
That's the only version I've played. I've heard some rumblings of how the Super Nintendo version is, so I'm looking forward to checking it out, but also dreading it as well.
Spoiler, I think it holds up pretty well. I mean, you obviously it is different, but we will get into that next time around. So, thank you again as always for joining us. We appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, suggestions, feel free to leave them on my Facebook page, or you can also email directly at the SNES Podcast at yahoo.com. Joe, how can they reach you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at JOESUX30. Also, I have a Facebook. You know where to find me.
Alrighty then. Thank you very much for joining us as always. Stay safe, everybody. We'll catch you again next time, and hope you had a good Halloween.
Bye.
Later, all.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Now you're playing with power. Super power.